Winston, tell them. Tell them all. Whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all.
Good action scenes aren't just entertaining, they're involved in the values of the subtext because action is character, it's an expression of motivations and knowledge. So it's kind of a form of storytelling dialogue in a way, and what makes the John Wick film so goddamn entertaining, apart from watching Keanu Reeves just flipping around like a badass, is witnessing a hierarchy of skill play out. The collision between an army of skilled gunmen and assassins versus basically the boogeyman.
Well, John wasn't exactly the boogeyman. He was the one you sent to kill the fucking boogeyman.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the point is a line is drawn, a solid contrast between common killers and elite killers. Therefore, there's a cultural dimension presented here in the art of killing. Culture tends to be defined by two classifications. On one hand, you've got the Raymond Williams culture is everything argument. What the fuck? Which is a perspective that pretty much includes all aspects of life into the definition. But the alternative is the Matthew Arnold one, which is the study of perfection. Or more famously in the preface of Culture and Anarchy, it's defined as the very best that's ever been thought and said. And for that it discerns a very solid difference, a line between high culture and low culture. Because the best is discerned as being things that have stood the test of time, like the opera, ballet, literature from the canon, which is an exclusively elitist definition because it's a standard that's defined purely by cultural systems affiliated towards upper-class cultural lifestyles. But it's the most appropriate conceptual tool in analysing John Wick because this perspective is concerned with value, and everything about these films echoes the classic aesthetic of traditional high culture. From the world building to the aesthetics to how every gunshot and move from John is a flash of eloquence and cultural desirability. The first proper action scene in the first John Wick film shows how killing is something civilized and is made emotionally clean. Before John kills Theon's men, he makes himself presentable with a nice suit, and afterwards he calls for a cleanup crew who clears everything up as if the whole ordeal was just a business exchange. Killing despite being bloody is never emotionally messy because there's a civil dimension to it, because it's so impersonal.
You working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
Oh, well. I'll leave you be then.
Good night, Jimmy.
Good night, John.
Even when John has revenge, it's not a cathartic emotional outburst. He doesn't torture him by castrating him or attach him to the back of a burning car into a car park full of other burning cars in the shape of a giant skull. He just shoots him and leaves. All of John Wick's emotions are filtered and mediated by a set of stoic professional standards. You kill my dog, I kill you. You kill Willem Dafoe, I kill you. Now it's settled and I move on. Why is my room getting so f***ing cold? Keanu's choreography and presentation is also reflective of this. Like when he sneakily kills a security guard in the nightclub, he stares him down to make sure he sees the life leave his eyes. There's no sadness or rage in Keanu's expression, just cold, methodological discipline. And the cultural environment itself also further anchors this high-class treatment of brutality.
This is your blood. You came to me. If you don't do this, you know the consequences.
There's the laws surrounding blood oaths and the no-killing rule on continental grounds, and as the film goes deeper and deeper in each sequel, we see the nuances of this cultural landscape more and more, and the different shades of this cultured barbarity.
The blade is in your aorta. You pull it out, you will bleed and you will die. Consider this a professional courtesy.
But the John Wick films doesn't just have fun with this nihilistic vision of a culture that is indifferent with life, it also explores this tension created by John Wick's identity and the professional cultural mechanics that he follows. When John gets his payback from being backstabbed in the second film, he's forced to do it on continental grounds.
A man can stay here a long time
and never eat the same meal twice.
There was no foreseeable way to complete his own personal transaction without impeding on the professional ones. So suddenly John is in conflict with the societal environment he had previously internalized and had benefited from. But this conflict is not presented in a I'm powerless sort of subjugation, but in a rather I don't care sort of irreverent friction, because even when the whole world is against him in John Wick 3, John is never cornered. Instead, he works with the rules. He's able to get out by exchanging his own identity for a life as an assassin again, but this time only serving the high table. Just as Matthew Arnold said, the idea of perfection as a harmonious expansion of human nature is at variance with our want of flexibility. Society is not something that subjugates John, it's something that is subject to him, even when the odds are so stacked against him, because these established rules and professional etiquettes are all ultimately negotiations.
I have no choice.
You dishonor the mark, you die. You kill the hold of the mark, you die. You run, you die. This is what you agreed to, Jonathan. Do what the man asks. Be free.
Society is built on voluntary exchange, and if you're willing to be pragmatic and adjust yourself, you can just about do anything in the most powerless positions, because no one is really docile if they're motivated by practicality. But later John chooses his old identity again when Winston makes him think about would he rather die as his own individual agent embodying the love of his wife rather than as someone else's puppet. Are you fucking serious? A motorcycle, and that personal dignity is everything, which redefines the entire meaning of John Wick's existence and the theme of these films. That the standard of culture's high ambitions are powers that reside within the privacy of the individual and not in the public realm. And this goes back to the conceit that culture is the study of perfection. John is the embodiment of this study, not just because he's Keanu Reeves, but his ability to maintain his sovereignty of individual reason against everything else. That is the elite standard of cultural reason. Life has no inherent meaning, but life's private achievements do, and it can be as small as the powerful memories that you work so hard to gain, or the skills you have as a professional, or even looking after a dog in order to make sure you look after yourself. These John Wick films, if you unpack them, shows us that perfection as a cultural standard is not arbitrary, it's an internal process, and therefore the identity of this quality is not in the cultural system themselves, but in those who carries them. So seeing John jumping around, massacring 100 people, or beating the system with nothing but his focused commitment and sheer will, brings forth the eloquence of this private development. John Wick, as a flesh and blood man, he is the study of perfection. This is such a pretentious way to end this stupid video.